There's a okay. All right.
Uh,
So
hold
you
on.
wanna
What you want to do?
you wanna do the theology topic now? I don't really. I'm just still learning I'm still learning theology. So
You still ask.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
yeah, I'm finna. Okay. So
You already know the
I'm finna.
argument.
Wait a minute. Wait a
I'll
minute. Wait
just
a
be
minute.
taking the.
Before we do this, had to get him out of there. He was annoying.
Chill on. But yeah, basically the argument for why atheism. Okay, I'll just take the position that atheism is more probable or is extremely more probable than God. And the argument for that is in chat. So, super demon, a purely evil necessary being that caused the universe, God, a purely good being that caused the universe. And there's the argument simple.
Wait, are you done?
Yeah, so if you want me to restate my
Oh,
position, just to be
oh
quick. I'm
wait.
just,
Can you
yeah.
my fault. Can you like repeat that? I was listening to my mom.
Yeah, so I'll just be taking the position that atheism or on proposition justified in being an atheist, because atheism is more extremely probable than God, and the argument is in chat. So he be a super demon, an evil necessary being that caused the universe. Let God be a purely good being that caused the universe. So it can be the existence of
Oh
SD
my
is
goodness!
improbable.
Can this dude stop calling me?
Yeah,
Hold
and then
on.
premise two is just gonna be that the existence. Alright, take as much time as you need, buddy.
All right. Okay. All right. So the problem is that chemistry between God and the super demon isn't really arbitrary, because like P2 assumes that the existence of a morally perfect necessary being and a morally evil necessary being oh my gosh, my fault, are roughly equally are
Yeah,
equally and hold on,
yeah. The point is.
wait, what?
Yeah, if you want me to explain it, I can just tell you why they are roughly equally
Wait. You said
intrinsically probable or
the point.
improbable.
You said the point is because of what?
Oh, you want me to? Okay, yeah. So, do you mean? Okay, do you want to explain why the SD is first of all very improbable, or do you just want to move on to premise two because you don't really care? Well,
Um, just I'm gonna just. Do you want me to just like finish what I had to say?
yeah, good actually.
All right, bet. So, like I said, premise two just assumes the existence of a morally perfect necessary being and an evil necessary being are roughly equally probable, and the necessary existence of a tied maximal greatness or perfection, classically defined are classic classically defined as omnipotence and moral perfection. Pure evil does not contribute metaphysical great making or perfection. It just reflects a lack of corruption or a privation of good traditions or privation of good. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So
I'm not done. I'm not done. My fault. Thus, a necessary being of being purely evil is conceptually incoherent or metaphysically impossible because necessary existence implies maximal perfection, including moral perfection. So, evil is parasitic on the good, or it is a distortion or lack of good, not a self-standing substance. Therefore, an absolute evil necessary being is incoherent in the same way as a square circle. So like P2
yeah,
just fail. Wait, I'm not done. So P2 just fails the intrinsic probability of God of GD and SD are not symmetrical. I can't speak.
yeah.
Symmetrical
I'll
because
explain
their
it.
metaphysical nature are not
Yeah. So
symmetrical.
first of all, I think the claim you made was to be necessary, you have to be maximally perfect, which would include omnibenevolence or just being all good. I'm asking
Your
prove
your mic
that.
ju- your mic your
Because
mic just hit
definitions
up.
are subjective.
Wait,
Second of all,
bro. I'm
right?
not, yo.
You're just conflating metaphysical
Your
possibilities, logical possibilities.
your mic it just hit a drip sauce level of horrible. I'm gonna need you to like re-say that.
My fault. Right. So first of all, you claimed that an FD or super demon cannot exist because it's incoherent. Because to be necessary, you have to be maximally perfect, and to be maximally perfect, you have to have omnibenevolence. And I'm just gonna ask you to prove that. Why can't you just be a necessary being without being maximally perfect? I don't see the argument for that. I don't see any motivation to. And then the second thing was, you said that, well, because of that, an
Oh
SC
my
is
gosh.
metaphysically impossible. Yeah, and then I'll just wait for him to come back. Du-du-du-du-du.
Okay. So you said
Yo, yo, yo.
what?
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh my.
So the second point is, yeah, we're just going from again.
All right, what was you saying? I'm listening.
Yeah, so the second point is that you're just conflating metaphysical possibilities and logical possibilities. Even if something is metaphysically impossible, it's still logically possible. And to be necessary, you have to be logic, or to be necessary within modal logic, because that's where the term necessary comes from when we talk about it in a theological sense, right? You'd have to be logically necessary. You have to exist within every logically possible world. So I don't really care if it's metaphysically impossible, because if you're metaphysically impossible, you can still be logically possible as the two, like, as the rules of metaphysics, even if it's controversial. Don't like explicitly use logical rules like the three laws of thought to determine whether something's metaphysically possible. It just uses metaphysical rules to determine whether something is metaphysically possible or metaphysically necessary. So yeah, it can just be the case that if you my fault. I didn't mean to say that. What I meant to say was an example of metaphysical necessity not being logical necessity is water being H2O. Water being H2O is a metaphysical necessity. Because of it's just a metaphysical necessity. If I'm to prove that, I can. And then
Okay.
just
So
because it's
okay.
metaphysical
Oh,
doesn't mean it's logically necessary, because logically it can still fail for those two things to not be like the same or to not be
all
necessary.
right.
My fault. Yeah.
All right.
So you go ahead.
All right. So okay, I heard. Okay, so you said okay. So the argument for a necessary being equally to a maximally great being is that a necessary being is defined as something that cannot fail to exist. Its non-existence is impossible. Um, but like, wait, hold on. What was I finna say? Hold on. Okay. I hold on. Let me just go back to what I said. I said a necessary being is defined as something that cannot fail to exist. Its non-existence is impossible, and a great making properties are traits that make a being greater than relevance. In the relevant sense, these include omnipotence, omniscience, and moral perfection and
You mean omniscience?
self-existence. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, my fault.
Wait,
Um,
okay, look, just to be clear, right? You're saying that, wait, my fault. But the burden on you right now currently is to prove that necessary would also have to be maximally perfect. So, can you get the argument?
Wait, you said what? Hold on. Wait, mama.
Yeah.
Give me a second, bro.
So again,
Just give me like 1 second, bro.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay, I'm back. What was you saying? You said prove that necessary being equals maximally perfect.
yeah, that's
All
the
right, bet.
burden on you.
Okay. So a necessary being is something that exists in all possible worlds. It has no external cause or dependence, and it exists by its own nature. It cannot lack what needs to exist. It's fully self sufficient, and like a maximally perfect being is one that has all great making properties with to the highest degree possible, necessary necessary existence, maximal power, maximal knowledge, and moral perfection, and etc. And and a perfection and if a NB is not maximally great, it would lack some greatness. But a being that necessarily lacks that necessarily exists cannot lack what is essential to its nature. Its nature explains why it exists necessarily in all possible worlds. A lacking being could be improved, then a greater possible being could be conceived, violating its necessity claim because a necessary oh my goodness, my phone, I'm stuttering so much. A necessary being must exist necessarily in its fullest form, and any limitation implies an explanation. Cause why does this being X?
Actually, have a limit. Yeah, I know what you're about to say. So look, it just seems to be the case that you just define a maximally great being as something that is logically necessary, and how it has all these great making properties. Something can be, or an M maximally great being, an MGB, is always necessary, but then the opposite isn't the same. A necessary being isn't always, maximally great, because the definition of a necessary just means to exist in all possible worlds and exist by its own nature. None of that includes being maximally great. But to be maximally great, you would need this necessity property.
Wait, wait,
Therefore,
wait,
it
wait,
just
wait,
seems to
wait,
be the
wait, wait.
case
Hold on,
that
wait. I didn't hear that.
one can
I didn't
be
wait
necessary without.
after you said something can be a max grade being. I didn't hear the rest. What was you saying? Something can be a max grade being and what?
Yeah, so something can be maximally great while holding the necessity property, but a necessary being, like the way we define necessary, it does not need to be a maximally great being, because a necessary being is just something that exists in all possible worlds. It doesn't need to have all these great properties, because the point of a necessary being is just that it exists within every possible world. But still, a contingent being can have better qualities than a necessary being. But that doesn't mean that it takes away from its necessity, right? Um, because basically the whole point of it is just that it always exists, and it always exists within every possible world. So
Okay,
one can be and actually they being whilst not being necessary. That's basically it.
okay, but
And
a
again,
necessary what? Wait, what was you saying?
continue. Yeah, just continue. I'll say after.
All right, but a necessary great being, it exists in all possible worlds, and a maximally great being has great making properties to the highest possible degree in all possible worlds. So you're arguing that that a being could be NB but not MGB. So like for example, maybe the number seven exists necessarily. Maybe a brute causeless necessary object exists necessarily but has no power, knowledge, or moral properties. So like to me that seems kind of coherent. And but like
Yeah,
but
look, I
okay, wait,
think
wait, wait,
wait,
wait,
wait,
wait,
wait.
wait,
Let
wait,
me
wait,
just be
wait, wait.
like,
Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done.
continue.
Okay. So look, a bare necessary great being with no other properties cannot explain the existence of everything else. If the necessary being is just brute with no power or intelligence, why is there a universe at all? Or why this specific one? Like a mere like an N oh my gosh, bro, my fault. A NB cannot provide sufficient reason unless it has creative power or
You here? Hello?
unless it has creative power
Am
or
I lagging?
external or you said what? You said
Am I
what?
lagging? Like, can you hear me? Hello? Am I
Um
lagging?
no,
Because
you're
you
no.
not for
No,
me.
you're not lagging right now. Okay, but can I finish?
Okay.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like okay, so like I said, a NB cannot provide sufficient reason unless it has creative power or explanatory explan explanatory power. Thus, a necessary existence alone is not enough. It needs maximal attributes to do explanatory work. I don't think I'm saying that right. But look, a great making principle is if maximally is the topic, then necessary existence itself is a great making property. But why stop at just necessary existence if more greatness is possible? If any being could possess omniscience, omnipotence, and etc., it lacks them is less great than a being that has them. So like by definition of greatness, necessary being should also be MGB otherwise something should be MGB otherwise something is greater than conceivable. And the modality problem is if there is a merely necessary being and it could have been more perfect but isn't, then this limitation requires explanation. But necessary beings cannot be arbitrary limited. They have no external cause or constraint. Thus, the simplest and least arbitrary necessary being is maximally perfect in all respects. Otherwise the limitations are just going to be ungrounded. So, yeah.
Do you take it to be that mathematics is necessary?
You said what? Do I take it to be that mathematics are necessary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Is math maximally great?
Is what?
Is math necessary? Like, is math maximally great? My fault.
You're still
It's just
cutting
yes,
out.
no. Like, does mathematics hold all the properties of a maximally great being besides the necessity one?
Yes, sir.
It lacks these properties, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so math is a case where it's necessary but not maximally great. Hello?
Hold on. Well, hold on. I'm texting my mother right now. My fault.
Hello?
Oh my god. Hold on.
So
Wait,
you're
hold on. Okay. Okay. What was you saying? You said I think I heard what you said. You said math is a case where it's necessary but not maximally great.
maximally great, yep.
Okay,
So
okay, but
yeah,
like
so look, um you just agreed that math is maximally great. Therefore your claim of, maximally grades or necessary beings always being maximally great is wrong.
okay,
And you
well,
still have yet to provide the justification as to
well,
why an SD is
wait, hold on,
incoherent like a
hold on.
square circle.
Okay, I'm gonna respond to what you just agreed that you said. Okay, so you said that math is a case where it's, oh my gosh, bro. Give me 1 second.
Logically necessary, yeah. Oh my lord, this I have a tough nose, but this is bad.
Oh my goodness, my mom won't stop getting on my nerves. But yeah, what you just said would be
You
like,
won't see that on her face though.
yeah, you're right. I
You
won't.
still up
She would beat the shit out of me. But yeah, okay. But
Good
what you said,
boy.
I think that would be just a category error because mathematical objects are abstract but not concrete beings. Like when we talk about a necessary being in metaphysics, we usually mean something concrete or capable of causing, acting, explaining reality. Numbers exist. Numbers exist necessarily in all possible worlds, but they are not casually inert. They have